Greetings, I'm Stephanie Elizabeth Briggs, the creator of Heart Blossom, where I offer soul guidance and inspiration to a global community of healers, artists, and heart-centered visionaries. Welcome. This is your moon message for the full moon in Pisces. That's happening September 1st or 2nd, 2020, depending on your location. For this full moon, we have the moon at 10 degrees of Pisces, facing off with the sun at 10 degrees of Virgo. We also have Uranus, which is retrograde currently in Taurus. That is in a trine to the sun and a sextile to the moon. So these are harmonious aspects. They're open channels of flow. And in this case, it's a disruption. It's a disruption on the path toward liberation. Now, the Pisces and Virgo axis is all about service. Pisces ministers to the spirit and Virgo ministers to the body. Pisces is the realm of disembodiment. It's a generally an ungrounded orientation where we're actually unconfined in a sense from that physical reality. In Pisces realm, the other world, it's a place of timelessness, of, you could say, eternity. Forever is made up of just the here and now. That's one dimension of the whole of who you are. But in this human life, we are in these bodies, and that's how we're designed to experience life here on Earth. So in these bodies, we experience linear time, and that's another way to organize the story of reality of life. There are other ways to be with that as well. In Virgo, although this is an earth sign, we also have the realm of astrology, the study of cycles, cyclical time, and an approach that's really focusing on patterns rather than a linear, one-directional approach to how things are happening. So reality is multidimensional. If you've been following me for a while, this is something I talk about, and I want to somewhat demystify that. There's so many dimensions of our reality, even just working in the earth level. There's so many different aspects of what we sense and feel and experience in our bodies. And then the meeting of bodies together, of multiple people, and then interactions with the other than human, the unseen. And so ultimately, as Pisces reminds us, it all blends together in this larger collective space. So in that sense, what we commonly refer to as the supernatural is really just a non-local dimension of reality. Now, of course, Pisces is a water sign, the emotional dimension of our experience. And again, in that Pisces sense, emotions are ephemeral, right? That flow of energy, just like the weather, is mostly intangible. There are tangible impacts that we can observe and feel, specifically when they manifest through our physical bodies in the case of emotions. And so again, our bodies are channels for expression of energy. And some of this energy is sort of locked in here in the earth space, and some of it is residing in other dimensions, we could say non-locally. As always with Pisces, the advice is to let your feelings flow, because when we're holding emotions, energy in motion, they're meant to move. And so when you instead hold it in, let's say you're holding grief, that's really common in Western society because we have a culture that finds grief to be inconvenient. It's not valued. We don't generally have space for it. And so a lot of us have learned for various reasons to suppress and hold in our grief. When you are holding back, holding in emotions and not letting them just flow and express through your body, you actually are creating stagnation. And when this happens on the earth level, in our muscles, in our physical bodies, that corresponds usually with held patterns of tension in our muscles. And ultimately, when this becomes chronic, when it goes on for a long period of time, it can manifest and sort of metastasize into different disease states and symptoms that we can experience. One thing I want to point out is Vesta, the keeper of the sacred flame. It's all about holding space. Vesta is trine to Chiron, which is retrograde, so it's turned inwards, holding space for our individual healing process happening within a larger cultural context as well. So those are, again, two different dimensions of experience. And so those of us who are healers, many of you who are receiving this message right now, part of what we're here to do is we are here to serve individuals and the collective by holding space for this movement of energy, for moving stuck energy, for allowing things to dissolve, tension and knots in any place of stagnation to dissolve and to recover its flow so it can be rejuvenated. Another important aspect of this moon is Mars. As you may know, Mars is going to be going retrograde next week, and that's going to be a defining feature of this fall. But currently with this full moon, Mars is in a trine, again, an open channel for flow with the South Node. So this is representing really like shadow warfare, cult behaviors, propaganda. And this can be happening, of course, in the world around us. We can see this happening. We have, conspiracy theories. The QAnon conspiracy theory, which I consider to be propaganda serving a right-wing fascist agenda. There are people out there who are fully enrolled in that cause. So this is a really important time to watch out for the stories that you're hearing, whether that's out in the world or in your own head. Look out for what is the agenda behind the story or this message that's being shared. That's where you can really lean into Mercury in Virgo right now, that place of discernment, not jumping to conclusions. Now Mars is also the focal point of a T-square, so this another big tension pattern with on one side Saturn, which is retrograde in Capricorn, and on the other side Venus in Cancer. So there's a continuing sense of limitation and frustration. We have drives, we have desires and wants to go for the life and the love that we want in our life, the love that we need. And there are blocks, there are limitations. Some of these are in the world around us, of course, in cultures of oppression and dominance. And many of these are also internalized from that culture. So there may be an experience or a sense or an ongoing pattern of love, home, comfort, nourishment, sustenance being out of reach, unavailable, not enough. Perhaps a sense of anxiety about this. Also could be patterns of perfectionism, criticism, rigid and binary thinking, clinging to outdated but familiar ways of doing things or working too hard. So if any of these are going on, I invite you to just pause and just slow down. Instead of getting locked into an internal conflict and struggle and getting into the frustration and the disappointment, those feelings are valid and it's okay to have those, but you don't need to fuse with them or identify with them. Instead, look to how you can channel and use this energy, this frustration and the pressure to go after what you want. This is a great time to really lean into resourcefulness, making the best of what you have. Also, perseverance, that slow and steady progress instead of rushing ahead like Mars and Aries would like to do. And also gratitude. Gratitude is an amazing supportive practice, not because it's virtuous, but because it's a way to stay in connection with and sort of take an inventory of all that you do have, even as there is so much loss, there's limitation, and in some cases just not enough. We also, of course, are dealing with quite a bit of collective grief, loss. There's martyrdom, illness, plague, like all these things are happening, and as always, they are impacting the most marginalized folks among us more than others. We see this in the time of COVID, with Black and brown lives being lost at much greater rates. and the economic impact on those who've already been struggling. We can see here in the United States in the continual police violence, the murder of Jacob Blake and others in Kenosha and Portland, loss of actor Chadwick Boseman to cancer. So there's a lot of loss. There's a lot that we've been having to let go of, perhaps unwillingly. And so I just want to remind you that all is not lost. Much has been lost, but all is not lost. And there is still something here for us. So what is it that you are willing to surrender, sacrifice, or just let go of right now? Something that's already gone that you've been clinging to. Can you let that go? Can you let it flow down that river of time? Please let yourself grieve. Let yourself grieve the losses of that which you loved. Lay them to rest. Take as much time as you need and call on your support team, whether that's living people in your life or your spirit guides, your well ancestors, any other than human and unseen beings who you have supportive relationships with. Draw on those now. Remember that you are always loved and supported, and allow yourself to open just a little bit more to receive and take in that support and nourishment. And then pay it forward when you can. It doesn't have to be grand gestures. What's one small act of kindness you can do today? One last thing I just want to let you know about. As I mentioned last time, I'm opening up my Garden of Light group again for a fall session this year. Enrollment is open and we are starting on September 18th. This is a women's growth group, and this is going to be a journey together through the somewhat foreboding and turbulent astrological weather of the last few months of 2020. So we'll be going through Mars retrograde, which starts next week, as well as Mercury retrograde, eclipse season, and finishing up around the solstice and the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in December. So this is going to be anchored into weekly group calls, which is really the heart of the program. And the women who were in the last session just really loved our group and getting that weekly check-in, that space to just drop in, to root into something supportive for connections and community and that bonding and magic of being in a circle. And together we will be doing some really fun and powerful guided meditation journeys to really activate and move us and move some of our energy. It's also a course with 8 modules that will help you bring more of who you are to life during this time. Some of the topics you'll be working on are designing your spiritual practice, developing your intuition, resourcing yourself, activating your purpose, and more. And it's all astrologically informed so that you can put your journey in context. I think this is a really magical program. I'm really excited to be offering this again and to really get to know pretty intimately this group of 13 women that I'm calling in. And so if that's you, you can go to my website at heartblossom.life/garden of light. Enrollment is open until September 16th. We start on Friday, September 18th. So I look forward to meeting those of you who will be part of the circle. And to all of you who are watching and receiving this today, I want to wish you all the best on your journey. Take care.